What good is a source of fresh, crystal clear water flowing deep in the earth? What good is it to anyone if it remains deep underground, undiscovered, and more importantly, untapped? And how do we tap it? Even if you dig a well, and we chose this particular image for a reason, this image of a well, looking down into the source of water down below, right? But also in this photo, we see that there is an apparatus. Although it's not the best depiction of that, you get the idea. But let's talk through it instead. Let's not become distracted with any image. Use your own power of visualization and your own experiential knowledge to say, first and foremost, that that eternal flow is there. The first thing that we need is a bucket. There needs to be a vessel that is designed specifically to go down into the well and fetch water from that eternal flow deep down in the earth. So we lower that bucket down into the well, and that bucket, that vessel, becomes filled with that pure, clean, life-giving, refreshing draft from that eternal flow. But the weightiness of that often requires that we have an apparatus that we can use to draw that bucket back up to the surface. And very often, that apparatus has to include some kind of a rope or a chain. In other words, a tether that connects us to that vessel, that bucket, that has the ability and the capacity to bring forth, to draw water from the depths of that well. And because of the size and the weight and the depth, very often that rope requires some assistance. And so we will have some kind of a pulley system and a crank and a handle. And we will turn that apparatus and wind that rope or that chain. We will wind it back up. And as we wind that rope around the apparatus, the pulley, the axle of that apparatus, we draw that vessel full of water back up to the surface. Now keep in mind that that apparatus is wholly mechanical. That pulley, that handle, that crank. And when we finally get that bucket of water to the surface, then what? The well is very often not exactly where we need the water. No matter where you drill a well, even if you drill that well in the heart of town, still you require that water in this location or that location or another location. So what do? You fill an earthen vessel. You take water from the bucket and you pour the water into a vessel that is not tethered to the well, that is not part of the well. The bucket stays in the well. At the very least, it stays with the well. And the apparatus that is there to lower it into the flow and bring it back up, all of that stays with the well. And then the earthen vessel takes the water and distributes it where it is needed. And it pours forth that water into the empty cups of those who thirst for the waters of life. And this is very practical. This is very self-evident. In order for that source of eternal flowing, life-giving, life-affirming water, in order for it, deep within the earth, in order for it to accomplish what it needs to do, what it longs to do, which is to give life, it requires the well, it requires the vessel that belongs in the well, the bucket, it requires the tether, it requires the mechanical apparatus, and it requires a physical vessel. And what's more, it requires someone to oversee this entire process and participate in this process, to apply their time, their strength, their energy, their attention to this process of lowering the bucket so that it may draw from that eternal source, that eternal wellspring, and pull it back up via a mechanical apparatus, and then deliver that life-giving water drawn from the eternal source, to share it with others, to fill the empty cups and to satisfy the thirst of the village and the villagers' animals and the villagers' plants, the villagers' crops, all of creation that thirsts for those life-giving waters. This is simply a self-evident, objective, practical reality. In this analogy, the bucket is the monad, the divine vessel that stays in the well, with the well, that has the ability to lower down and receive the water directly from the eternal flow, the eternal source of life itself. And what tethers that bucket, that being, that vessel, the monad, what tethers that bucket to the surface is a rope that connects it to the mechanical apparatus. It is that rope, it is that link that we call consciousness. It is our conscious connection to the vessel that has direct access to the infinite source of water. Without that rope or that chain, the links, the ties that bind us together, that bind us together as one, that's what a rope is. It can connect two phenomena. And it is that rope that gives us the ability, the capacity to have a connection to that vessel, which can go deep, deep, deep down into the earth. And yet, on the surface, that tether, that line, that chain connects to a mechanical apparatus. Well, what is that mechanical apparatus? That is our mind. That is our heart, our mental and emotional centers, but particularly the mind, the rational mind. We need that mechanical apparatus. We must have a way to be able to take the water from deep within the earth and draw it up in that vessel to the surface. But thinking about things isn't enough. It's not enough to have an empty mind and an apparatus that's completely focused on drawing water to the surface of the well, is it? Because that's all well and good. We can draw water from the depths of our earth using our mind. We can receive that water using the conscious connection to our higher self. We can remain connected and receive the information, the knowledge, the life-giving waters from the depths of ourselves. But what good is it to anyone? And what good is it to us if we have to remain next to the well all the time, where the water is not necessarily needed? For instance, in meditation, it's all well and good to meditate and be in meditation and achieve insights in meditation. But then where does that leave the teachings of Buddha, who said, you must test my words. You must apply them. You must take them out into the world and use them, make use of them, make them manifest in your actions, in your interactions with others. If you have drawn this life-giving water from your well, are you just going to hoard it for yourself? No, you're going to fill your vessel and take it with you and pour it into the empty cups of those who thirst. And so how we express what we receive, we can express it visually, we can express it through dance, through art, through words, through images, and through song, of course, through music, and through all the other physical activities that we perform with our physical vessel. But a physical vessel that's filled to the brim with those life-giving waters that we were only able to draw and bring up to the surface with our mechanical apparatus of our mind. In other words, a mind in service to those life-giving waters. And our physical vessel then takes what the divine vessel, the monad, the bucket, which can lower down into the depths of the earth and bring to the surface, our physical vessel takes over that task, and there is a transfer of activity. And we call this, for lack of a better word, mediation, because all expressions in form, in some form, as that life-giving water fills our physical vessel. And then we pour it forth this way and that way into other vessels, into other cups, into other glasses, and so on. The water takes the shape of whatever vessel we pour it into. Is it not so?